All right, welcome back. So we talked about what a mineral is, different characteristics of minerals, difference between minerals and rocks. So each rock we'll kind of look at in subsequent units. So Unit 6 will be igneous rocks, Unit 7 sedimentary rocks, Unit 8 metamorphic rocks. So we'll take and break up each of those to discuss those a little bit more in depth. But let's talk about minerals as it pertains to Arizona. So here's the fun thing. Look around you at anything that you got. If it's not grown, it's mined out of the ground. Does that make sense? If something is not grown, it's got to come from somewhere. It's pulled out of the ground. So think about, my water bottle here. It's made of metal. It's made of plastic. It's made of, it has this paint pigments. Where does this stuff come from? Well, none of this was grown, so all of this material somehow to get ripped out of the ground. The metal, the plastic. The plastic is derived from petroleum, oil. So, everything comes from somewhere. Think about your phone. The glass on the phone is actually quartz harvested from sand. The plastic, what are the technology inside? So stuff's got to come from somewhere, and if it's not grown, it's mined. It's ripped out of the ground. So in Arizona, we do have a decent amount of mining. Some of you may know our kind of what we're kind of known for. It's kind of the unofficial state motto. But there's a number of mines around Arizona. Some of the major mines include copper, obviously. We are the copper state. Some gold mines as well. We have around cement, which needs a lot of loose sediment and dirt and rocks. There was a coal mine. I guess it's still there, but the power plant, the electricity generating power plant that utilized that coal shut down. So I believe the mine shut down as well. And then also we have this red cross, which indicates uranium, a radioactive element used in nuclear power plants as well as nuclear weapons, as well as medicine, nuclear medicine as well. You need some radiation for certain things. The nasty thing about that around this area is the Grand Canyon National Park. And in fact, there are large uranium deposits in and around the Grand Canyon. So there are companies who have asked the government to go in and rip up the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon's a national park, so it's protected, so you can't do any type of mining or digging there. But there are companies who want to make money, and they would rather rip up the Grand Canyon to get the uranium out than have the Grand Canyon the way it is. As of now, our government has said, nope, we're protecting the Grand Canyon, but you never know. The money is a driver of a lot of evil things. So again, just to show you a lot of what we got around Arizona. If you notice, a lot of these different mines are kind of in this central southern region of Arizona, not so much in the northern region. That goes actually back to plate tectonics, the Basin and Range province. So Phoenix, Tucson, Yuma, up into Kingman, this whole area was, remember, kind of split and fractured, and some stuff up and some stuff went down. With all that movement and all these cracks, it allowed minerals to be exposed, or minerals to kind of make their way up closer to the surface. So that's why there's a lot of mining. Up in the north area, the Colorado Plateau, there wasn't that breaking, that Basin and Range province extension. Remember back in Unit 2 we were talking about that. So there's not a lot of mining up there. In Arizona, as far as the active mines by different commodities, here's a list. When we think of mines, I think most people think like gold mines or like diamond mines looking for jewels. That's not what most mines are. In fact, in Arizona, most mines are aggregates and crushed stone. That sounds fun. Aggregates and crushed stone. It's just rocks. Just regular old rocks. Now, that's used for sometimes to put a foundation down, so that you build on something a little bit more sturdy. Sometimes the stone's mixed in with cement to make different forms of cement. So yeah, so most of what we mine in Arizona is just rocks. It's not so fun, huh? Second on that list, kind of building stone. Stone's used to build stuff. Yeah. So most of what we mine, what's that, 67 plus 17, 77, 84, almost 85% of everything we pull out of the ground in Arizona is just rocks. You can see metal, 6%, gemstones, 0.2%. So when mining, it has this romantic view to it, like, oh, I'm going to get rich. Nah, most of the stuff they pull out is just rocks. Here's a little list of some of that stuff, the different stuff that the aggregate and crushed stone is used for: concrete, asphalt, etc. Building stones, decorative stones. Metals we have here in Arizona: copper, gold, silver, zinc, some iron, mostly copper though. Breaking down building stones by commodity type, just to kind of show you what those are. So decorative stone, so this is something very common. So of the 17.1% of building stone material, 52.2%, over half of that building stone, actually goes to decorative stones. So that's the stones that you have in your front yard, the xeriscape landscape. Instead of grass, some people have rocks in their front yard. That's a lot of what that building stone material is. Second on that list is flagstones. Flagstones are usually flat stones that people typically make like little walkways out of. Those are flagstones. And then I guess third on that list you have dimension stones, and that's the stones you would actually kind of build buildings out of. So again, most of the stuff we pull out of the ground in Arizona is just rocks. So this is a satellite image of kind of the west side of Phoenix. Estrella Mountain Community College is way down here in this corner. That's the corner of Thomas and Dysart here. But I live kind of just over the river, over the Agua Fria River, the waterless river. So I live over kind of in this area. And so I cross some of these bridges every day: Camelback Road, Indian School Road. And if you ever do and kind of look off to the sides, what you're seeing in these areas are a bunch of these aggregate mines, these stone mines that are taking out sediment, rocks for cement, for building material, any number of things. So usually on my way home, I take Indian School, and if you go Indian School over the Agua Fria River and you look mostly south, kind of right in this area, you can see the Cemex plant. They make cement. There's a bunch of cement trucks back there. This is the different machinery used to make cement. You can see the Estrella Mountains looking south in the background there. So there's a number of these throughout the whole Agua Fria River. A little bit up north here, you have one of those aggregate rock supplies. You can see all the different piles of rocks used for different things, some decorative, some for building materials, etc. So yeah, most of mining in Arizona is just rocks. Fun. What about metal, though? So 6% of mines in Arizona do extract metal. So obviously a very slim minority of mines. The vast majority of that material being copper. We are the copper state. Gold and silver right up in there. A little bit of iron, a little bit of lead, zinc, silver, etc. So yeah, mostly rocks, some copper. Another interesting mineral, getting back to kind of specific on minerals: gold, mineral. Copper is a mineral. Rocks themselves aren't minerals. But one interesting mineral for sure that we do mine pretty close to EMCC. Again, here's Estrella Mountain Community College. Here's Thomas. Here's Dysart. If you travel north up Dysart to the corner of Dysart and Glendale Avenue, there's the Morton Salt Mine and production facility. And so buried underneath about 600 meters, which is a little over about 2,000 feet below the surface of this area here, there is a big salt bed. There's a salt bed. And so we need salt for a number of different things. The mineral name of salt is called halite. So what's really interesting is that there's a couple of ways to mine. You could kind of dig a big hole and have shafts and send men and equipment down there to mine out the salt and bring it back up. But what I think is kind of genius is the way in which they get this salt. So what they did, instead of having machines and humans go down there to get all this salt, is they just drilled a pipe all the way down, and what they do, they inject water down in there, kind of dissolving the salt. So now the salt is dissolved in the water, so they have salty water, and then they suck it back out, now it's known as brine, salty water, brine. And what they do is they just have these big pools where they just dump all this water and exposed to the heat and sunshine, and the water evaporates away and leaves behind the salt, or the mineral name, halite. Once all the water's gone, you just collect all the salt. There you go. So all these different, little areas you see are all the different stages of salt being dried out. You can see this one kind of maybe a little bit more wet. The darker, more wet, lighter is, more just the salt. So again, halite is the mineral name of salt. They extract just here in this area. And not all salt is mined this way. Some, where I'm from in Cleveland, they do have machinery go in certain places to mine out salt. It just depends on how deep down it is. This being 2,000 feet below the surface, it's easier in this case and probably more cost effective to do this solution mining is what it's called. So again, you're injecting that water down underground, dissolving the salt, sucking it back out, letting the water evaporate, leaving behind the salt. In just this factory alone, it produces 183 million pounds of salt every year. 183 million pounds every year. That's a lot of material to be pulling from underground. So another thing to think about, let me go back to this image. If you keep pulling salt out of here, what do you think is going to happen to the ground above it? If you're pulling out a heavy amount of material that supports thousands of feet above you, well, what's going to happen to this area? It might eventually collapse in. Watch out. So if you live near Dysart and Glendale, if you went to Luke Elementary School, watch out, I guess. The salt here is not table grade salt, food grade salt. The salt here is actually used in the production of chlorine for swimming pools, as well as water softeners. Some of you might have those in your house. A water softener takes the water coming in from the public water lines, removes some of the chemicals, the minerals, calcium carbonate. That's the stuff that builds up on like your shower head, that white crusty stuff. So water softeners kind of take some of that out, but they use the salt in for those. But another great big user of the salt is actually the Palo Verde nuclear generating plant, about 20 miles west of Phoenix here, off of the 10, just south of the 10. It's the largest output nuclear power plant in the country as of now. They use salt mixed with water as a coolant for the nuclear energy generating processes. So if we look at a cross-section of Arizona, if I were to slice Arizona from the side and look at it from the side, this is kind of what I would see in the Basin and Range province. The Phoenix area is located right around here. Again, you see the Gila River. You see the Basin and Range formations. You see the stuff that went up. You see the stuff that dropped down, and how weathering and erosion has broken down some of the stuff that went up to fill in those gaps. So the Luke Basin, that's where this halite is found. Halite's the mineral name for salt. You can see it there. So it is a rather large deposit sitting under the Luke Basin. So we're in this kind of low-lying area here on this side of town. And the deposit itself is 8 miles long, 5 miles wide, and 1 mile thick. So there's a lot of salt down there. But if we take out all that material, that's a big area that's not going to be supported. Fall on down. So anyway, this is the Basin and Range province. You can see how subsurface-wise the blocks that went up and the blocks that went down. But once you get into this area, which is actually flagstone, you don't see that anymore. You start to get into volcanics and igneous rocks. And that's where we'll actually lead to in the next unit. It'll be kind of interesting as we kind of transition from minerals into rocks, and the first step will be into igneous rocks, dealing with those rocks that formed from cooled magma and lava. Talk about volcanics and stuff and all that kind of fun thing. But in any case, let's wrap it up, shall we? So what are some of those big or main ideas as it pertains to minerals and rocks a little bit? What are the 5 components to be a mineral? Remember those. The different characteristics of minerals. We'll take a little bit more look at that in lab. 3 different types of rocks, but we'll expand on those in following units. But just remember the basics of them. And some of the different mineral mining we have around Arizona, what we mine out, where it's located, etc. Well, that's all I got. So, until next time, I'll see you. Have a good one. Adios.